morning. It's Ginny, Tim, and Eli from DS Tech, and we're going to take a second look at the recall of Microsoft Recall. We did one previously about, it actually recalling it. If you don't recall, you can go to our YouTube channel and find it. But we're going to take another look at it. We had a prior discussion about whether it'd be handy or not, but it's not secure as far as we can see so far. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'll let Tim get into that. But before we do, make sure you drop your questions and comments below the video and go to our website, dstech.net, to sign up for free security assessment. But don't do that until you listen to our video. So let's talk about it.
With all the buzzwords in the industry right now, AI, machine learning, all that kind of stuff. So what Microsoft is trying to do is to create essentially like a history of an activity history on your computer. And to try to help with this, what they're trying to do is they're taking screenshots of what you're doing every so often. I forget the cadence, whether it's every 10 minutes, 2 minutes, an hour, whatever. They're taking screenshots of your computer every so often. And then the idea is that you can search keywords and terms, and then using AI, it can go through all those images and ideally maybe try to find a conversation you had with someone or what were you doing on Tuesday. Just kind of like a search history kind of is the idea with it. Where you have your browser history now, like within Teams or other Microsoft applications, you can kind of search through your emails, looks for keywords. Now it'll do that, and it kind of goes through all the images that it's been taking over the past, in the past, and then it can try to find that stuff.
So it could be multiple applications.
Multiple applications, right? All at
Yeah.
once. So the idea you were saying is like, I just had a discussion with someone. I couldn't remember if it was an email, was it in Teams, was it in this other software we use with this other chat? Where was I? So ideally you could say conversation with Tim, keywords being Switch and Cisco or whatever it is, and ideally you can try to find where it was, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, it was in here. Maybe narrowing down your search could be a use case for it. So this article talks about how Microsoft is starting to test the photographic memory search feature on it again. It's still in the beta. It's not on any sort of production. You have to be in part of like Microsoft insiders and be testing their
inner circle.
Yeah, testing it ahead of time. But what they're noticing though is that the search still isn't quite perfect. An example of this article gave was that a user basically had a photo of New York, which had smokestacks and a certain scene, and they were trying to search for that image or that in their history by typing in words like smokestack, and it wasn't able to really find it. And so certain things like that, it wasn't able to do it. Microsoft issues pre-release software like this typically so people can test it, maybe find the bugs. These people can say, hey, look, this search didn't work. Here's what I was trying to search for, try to make it better. And ideally, they're going to try to iron out all the kinks before it gets pushed to production or live. And there was a couple other ones talking about how Recall allows you to prevent screenshots from being made when you're accessing specific apps. So if you were worried about it, taking screenshots when you're using your accounting software, there are ways now you can take the Recall and say, I don't want it to take pictures of X, Y, and Z, because that was the biggest thing prior was they were getting basically blasted for saying you're taking pictures of everything. I enter information on my screen, credentials all the time on my screen. I don't want any of that stuff. Exactly. And
right. Customer information.
And so, they're trying to make these steps in place where you can kind of opt into it and maybe choose what it's recalling versus like having to opt out.
Sounds like a security nightmare, honestly.
It is, and I'll be honest, my take on it, even if they're able to, where this is an opt-in feature only, and I only want Recall to take pictures of it when I'm doing X, Y, and Z, I still wouldn't want anything taking screenshots of the desktop so often just for the security risk. Now, if all those images maybe are stored in an area that can't be accessed and it's somehow locked, super great, and, great, but even that, it's just like almost a treasure trove where if an attacker could get on your system and they can break into this vault, which has pictures of history everything. Of all your typing, they may be able to get a password you typed, or no, maybe your password's obfuscated, but it's got 8 characters in it because you've typed in 8 characters. They might get little bits of information that can help them try to do more attacks. So that's where I still personally, my thing when Microsoft Recall finally is in production, I'm going to figure out how to turn it off and then turn it off on everyone's computer that I know and that's just what I'm going to do is disable it to prevent it, right? So that's where I still kind of leaning just security orientated, but it could be neat. Again, if it's opt-in where I want to use this feature and I only want it to take pictures of in the browser or when I'm doing emails or whatever, and you tell it explicitly what you want to take pictures of versus what it's probably going to be is take pictures of everything and then you have to tell us what you don't want us to take pictures of. But then to try to manage that. That could change if the software changes. It's just going to be a lot of overhead. So that's where
Yeah,
at that
sounds
point
like
I'm going to be like disabled, and we'll just disable it across everything. So it's just a newer feature. With more AI, I get why they're trying to do it, machine learning, and it could be kind of useful in certain use cases. But I think that the security implications, what it could be used for bad, outweighs the positive use cases right now. Unless you have just some amazing use case for it, maybe drop it in a comment below.
Yeah,
I
let
haven't
us
thought of
know
it
what
yet.
Right.
you were
The
just
only one I
like.
could think of was that one, like if I'm searching conversations, but then again, I'm like, would
Doesn't
I
always-
want it to have all those conversations?
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? What if
Right.
what if
If
I'm
it's-
talking about license keys and,
Mhm.
Or other
Something
personal
sensitive.
information, or
Right.
PII, or it's got
Right.
customer things
Or
you're doing.
people you don't know, or people that don't know that you have this feature or something. It's like, well, then
Right.
maybe
I mean, it
record
could
without
it could be
consent.
useful, like if you're an adult and maybe you want to
Yeah.
see what your kids are looking at, things like that for parental
Yeah.
guidance, things like that. It could
Certainly.
be useful.
I've definitely used stuff like
and
that
yeah.
before.
And they're touting it. It's mainly going to be on their Copilot Plus ready PCs because it has to have some of that
Oh.
technology in it too.
Like this one with the
Um,
Copilot button on it.
Probably that's a good one. Yeah. So-
Okay, so that leads me to
No,
a question. Sometimes they do that. They'll like put things out on home systems
Yeah.
to test, right? Before
Yeah.
they go on to business systems.
Potentially just to make sure because there's less liability with home systems.
Are
and
they
certain
doing that
businesses.
with this, you think?
I still think you need to completely opt into it because this
Okay.
was just last Friday. They started letting people test it on these things. So in order to do that, you have to be part of their Microsoft
Okay.
Insiders group and opt into it. And then you have to do like a certain Windows update that updates your Windows to this like beta version, right? And then once those features get installed, you
It's
can then start
probably not
playing
being
with it.
pushed out.
I don't think it's being pushed out at this
Okay.
point in time. It's just opting in and signing up. So, but yeah, that's just, basically, I guess in summary here, this article kind of explains it. It says, despite the early issues, Recall can be helpful and interesting when it does work or turn up some positive results. Like if you want to get back to a certain app or a web link you were viewing at the time of the screenshot, clicking the button below the image will take you right back to that moment in time. Maybe going to that website. It's like, I remember I was looking, if you're doing a bunch of searching on the website, but then at that point, again, I guess, counter to that would be like, well, I'll just use my browser search history.
Exactly,
anyway,
that's
and
what
look
Right.
at it.
I was just
I'll just
thinking
use
that.
the other methods I already had on file. But again, maybe it could be really useful in maybe certain industries where it heavily on graphics. Like maybe you're a graphics artist and you don't live in typing out stuff all day long. You're actually just constantly doing images.
Hmm.
Maybe at that point, it could help you look for various images based on searches or things like that potentially. And certain,
Yeah.
maybe there's certain industries or fields where it could be really useful. But for right now, it just seems like a security nightmare. And I would just disable it personally if it was on my personal device, just because I don't want something taking pictures all the time. Because even if it is secure and it's behind password and it can't be accessed from the outside the machine, things like that, you got to know hackers are going to be trying to figure a way to break
Right.
into that no
Right.
matter what, and then it's going to be another hole to kind of fix. So
Mhm,
by just
mhm.
turning it off at that point, you won't have to worry about it. So
Eliminates
So-
any risk of that.
Sounds like the moral of the story is you don't need to participate in beta stuff, right?
Yep.
So just wait for
Wait
it to
until
be
it's
all
ironed out.
yeah, all my
yeah,
all the
don't
bugs
be the
are
fool. Let the bugs iron out, and then later you can make an educated decision whether you want to leave the feature in or disable it.
which DS Tech, we do that too with our
Oh, yeah.
software. We test it and make sure that everything's good before it ever goes out to our customers.
Yep.
So that's
Stay on the latest
Just-
changes, and then
yeah.
that way, if it does go out to where all of a sudden recall is turned on and all the Windows 11 computers all at once overnight, then we can have a good game plan to basically disable that on all
Yeah.
the computers the next day. So,
absolutely so cool. Anything else? Are we good on that topic? We're
that's
good on
about
that
it. Yep.
topic.
I-
Okay.
In my opinion, recall should still be recalled, but if you're going to be pushing forward with it, I don't think it's something that's going away. Eventually, it will be there, but then we'll be able to help you navigate through it, potentially disable it, or opt you in a secure state if you do want to have it for certain, however you want to use that particular software. So.
If you'd like access to our brain trust, we have a lot of smart people in all over our organizations that are all together.
Certainly.
So
Mhm.
yeah, go to dstech.net, sign up for your free security assessment, and start the process of having that conversation with us, and we can help you with all this kind of stuff. So yeah, make it a great day. Stay safe. Don't click any links.
That's right.
All that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time.